Former New South Wales Nationals leader John Barilaro, that big New York job he created when a minister in the government. More fallout today from the parliamentary inquiry into how he ended up being appointed after he left office. This damning letter from his former Chief of Staff, Mark Connell, was read out. Now, according to Connell, Barilaro told him he would create the New York trade job for himself to ensure he had a job to go to after he left politics, allegedly saying that the Trade Commissioner's postings were an opportunity to get the F out of the place. Joining me now, Sky News Queensland Editor Peter Gleeson, for this and a whole lot more. Gleeson, John Barilaro has rejected these claims today, but he did create the role, that's a fact. He did end up getting it, that's a fact, after, of course, it had been offered to somebody else. The word from his former staffer appears to ring true. Now, it's going from bad to worse, isn't it?
Well, it's a classic case, Peter, of a job for the boys gone wrong. Now, in Barilaro's defence, there are many examples where former politicians have landed plum roles, plum trade roles elsewhere. I mean, former Queensland Premier Peter Beattie was appointed to the LA Trade Commissioner's role on about $400 a year when he left politics. So it's not unprecedented for this to happen. But the testimony today of his former Chief of Staff is incredibly damning, and it just doesn't pass the pub test. The problem for Barilaro is that this type of disingenuous, unctuous, odious behaviour in many respects probably disqualifies him for other jobs further down the track. Now, he's been touted as a possible Greyhound Racing New South Wales CEO. I mean, the board would be very loath to appoint him with this type of stench around his character. So Barilaro, who I think was a pretty effective politician during his time, he's dug himself a pretty big hole here.
I think the issue is he created the job that he then left the parliament and got. And there was a process now that's not standing up to scrutiny. It's not the issue that a former politician's got the job. I do think some warrant these sorts of jobs, but you've got to have a transparent process. And most of them who get the jobs didn't actually create it in the first place. I think that's the problem.